The calorie number printed on your food is not a precise measurement. It is a permitted estimate. And the law that governs it explicitly allows it to be off by a margin most people would find uncomfortable. Most people think a nutrition facts label is basically a lab report for that exact package. It isn't. It is a regulated estimate. Built from formulas, databases, sampling, rounding rules, and allowed tolerances. Not a promise that every box, bag, or bar contains the exact numbers printed on it. Regulated and accurate are not the same thing. They never were. Here is how it actually works. Manufacturers are responsible for the label values, but those values do not have to come from testing every single package. FDA guidance allows companies to build nutrition labels from product databases and recipe calculations, as long as the underlying method is acceptable. The actual product coming off the production line may differ from those estimates because ingredients vary, cooking processes vary, and batch conditions vary. And that variation is real. The same strawberry yogurt made in different batches is not chemically identical every time. So even if the label was built honestly, the product itself can still drift. Then the rounding rules kick in. Calories are rounded to the nearest 5 or 10, depending on the amount. Small quantities of fat can round down to 0 grams, and trans fat under 0.5 grams per serving can legally appear on the label as 0 grams. So before you even get to manufacturing variation, the label is already a simplified version of reality. Then comes the tolerance rule. For calories, fat, sugar, saturated fat, cholesterol, and sodium, the product is considered misbranded only if the tested value exceeds the label by more than 20%. For nutrients like protein, fiber, and carbohydrates, the food generally needs to provide at least 80% of the labeled amount. In plain terms, the law already expects some drift. It is written into the standard. Why not just require exact labels? Because exact labeling sounds clean, but in the real world, it would be unworkable. Food is not a machine part. It is biological material processed at industrial scale. Its composition shifts with crops, suppliers, storage, temperature, moisture, and production conditions. If the law demanded exact precision on every package, compliance costs would spike, labels would need constant revision, and consumers still would not get perfect numbers, because food itself is not perfectly uniform. So the system made a deliberate choice: standardized truth that is practical to produce, test, and enforce, over exact truth that is impossible to guarantee at scale. That is why close enough within a legal range beat scientifically exact every time. This was not an accident. It was standardized on purpose. The Nutrition Labeling and Education Act of 1990 made nutrition labels mandatory on packaged foods for the first time. The entire point was consistency. Standard serving sizes, standard nutrient terms, standard formatting. The 20% tolerance was codified under FDA Regulation 21, CFR Part 101 as part of that framework. The 2016 Nutrition Facts revision updated serving sizes and added new nutrients, but it was still designed to make labels easier to compare across products, not to turn every package into a precision instrument. That is why the label feels more exact than it really is. The format signals certainty, but underneath that clean little box is a system built on estimation, rounding, acceptable variance, and practical enforcement. A comparison tool first, a measurement tool second. So yes, nutritional labels are legally allowed to be wrong, but the more accurate way to say it is this: they are legally allowed to be approximate. If you are eating 2,000 calories a day based on label counts, the actual number could be meaningfully higher or lower. And every label involved would still be fully compliant, which means if you are obsessing over small differences, 190 calories versus 210, 0 grams of trans fat versus a trace amount, 11 grams of sugar versus 13. You are trusting the label more literally than the system was ever designed to support. The label is useful. It is not fake. But it is not a lab certificate either. It has always been a legal estimate, in a very confident font. If you want more small things with big reasons, subscribe.